welcome to not season 2.
Season
3, episode 2.
Can you do... I can't do 3 with this hand. Can you do 3 with this hand?
3?
I can't do it.
Why can't?
I don't know. I think it has something to do with like my... I don't know. So I have to do 3 on this hand like this.
Do the American Sign Language.
3.
ASL, 3.
Because I can't do...
For our ASL friends.
I can flip people off, but for some reason I can't do 3.
I don't know. I can't do 3. Can I flip you off?
Yes.
All right. That sounds sketchy.
This is true.
I won't call you out though.
Thank you.
In front of everyone.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Are you ready for this one?
I am so ready for this one.
Okay. This one's going to be a little bit twisty. And if you know the story, you already know how it's going to end.
Yep.
But of course it's me, so we have to get a little psychological on this and explore those depths with my degree in armchair psychology.
Yes. Yes, where did you get yours from?
The
Crackjack box of University
degree where you get the thing and the stuff and they send it to you, and
That's awesome.
I just haven't hung it up yet. It's not on our own.
Do you think they'd mind if we hung up like fake degrees? Like, this is my degree from Yale.
In crayon. Can we try that?
At Harvard.
And we misspell Harvard. This is from Harvard. Harvard and Whale. Yes. But that's about as good as what my degree would be. So take all of this with a grain of salt.
Okay.
But I thought it would be kind of fun to look into and throw some ideas around. So we are going to talk about the victim first.
Okay.
I use victim loosely, and we'll talk about why.
Okay.
We are going to talk about Claudine Dee Blanchard. And she was born in Louisiana in 1967. And growing up, her family said that she had a habit of stealing from them, mostly petty theft, but still some issues there. And they were even suspicious that she killed her own mother in 1997 by starving her to death.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so she grew up with already this kind of cloud around her. She had a daughter, Gypsy Rose, born in 1994 when she was...
that. We know Gypsy.
Yep, if you know Dee Blanchard and her daughter Gypsy Rose, they're the big reveal. Dee had her when she was 24 years old, and Gypsy Rose's father was only 17 at the time. They got married, but then separated before she was even born because he said he got married for the wrong reasons. And noted that at 3 months old, Dee was already taking Gypsy to the hospital for sleep apnea, even though they never found any reason for the sleep apnea. Dee was still insistent that it happened, and she had other issues along with it, and that's when this whole story starts.
Okay.
Her health continued to deteriorate from there to the point of not even going to school, somewhere between kindergarten and 2nd grade. Different sources say different things, but she would stay home, and Dee would homeschool her, and I use homeschool very loosely. She did not have a good education. So then eventually Dee moved in with her father and stepmother, and her stepmother's health started to decline. When confronted with poisoning her stepmother with weed killer, Dee moved out, took Gypsy to live in Slidell, Louisiana. At this time, she was also facing several arrests for minor offenses, including writing bad checks. It should be noted that once Dee moved out, her stepmother's health started to improve. But Gypsy's health, in the meantime, kept going downhill. She suffered from muscular dystrophy, hearing and vision problems, seizures. She faced several surgeries to treat all of these ailments and more, including having a feeding tube installed and being on an oxygen tank. So then after Hurricane Katrina in August 2005, they eventually relocated to Springfield, Missouri, in a house built by Habitat for Humanity, especially designed for Gypsy, with a wheelchair ramp, a special bathtub that she could get into, and all of this because she's completely wheelchair bound
right
at this point. And then for the next 10 years, the amount of surgeries that she went through is extreme.
Right.
It included saliva gland removal, ear tube implants, many, many more. It was bad. So in June 2015, neighbors reported to police that something was wrong when 2 posts showed up on Gypsy and Dee Dee's shared Facebook page. 2 posts showed up. One post said, "That bitch is dead." And then when everyone started questioning that and calling that out, commenting on it, their Facebook page replied to that post and said, "I fucking slashed that fat pig and raped her sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so fucking loud, LOL." So that's when police really got involved, went to the house. The van was there, but nobody was answering the door. They got into the house. When they got in, Dee Dee was found dead in her bed from 17 stab wounds from at least a couple days earlier, and Gypsy was missing. But her medications, her wheelchair, her oxygen tanks, her feeding tubes, everything that she would have needed to survive was still in the house. So they were very concerned she had been abducted.
Right.
They were worried about her health, her well-being. Because at this point, she's got leukemia, asthma, again, muscular dystrophy, everything else. Neighbors and friends were very concerned about what had happened.
Right.
They were able to, a couple of days later, find Gypsy safe in Wisconsin with her boyfriend and walking. Both Gypsy and her boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn, surrendered and were charged with murder and felony armed criminal action. They were charged separately, with Gypsy accepting a plea bargain agreement and sentenced to 10 years in prison, while Godejohn was sentenced in February 2019, so not that long ago,
Right.
to life in prison for the murder conviction and 25 years for the armed criminal action charge.
Right.
So, that's that part. Now to kind of follow that up with none of Dee Dee's family even mourned her death.
Right.
They stated that Dee Dee deserved her fate, and Gypsy had already been punished by living with her, to the point that her father and stepmother eventually flushed her ashes down the toilet.
Wow. Her Gypsy's
No. Dee Dee's father and stepmother. Stepmother that got sick and then got better.
Yeah.
So we knew that there was kind of that cloud around Dee Dee, but what the public knew at this point was that she took care of her ailing daughter and was murdered by her ailing daughter. So that's kind of what everybody was learning, and that's what we heard, because this happened
I remember that.
not very far from us.
Yeah.
Here in Kansas City. So
what makes me wonder is why the hell they didn't do anything to help poor Gypsy.
Well, depending on which point in this story, we will cover that.
If they were concerned about what a bad person, okay. Please continue.
So, we've discussed Dee Dee's side.
Yes.
Now we're going to discuss Gypsy's side, because there is more to the story.
Yes.
But first, I want to talk about a little of the psychology part of it.
Okay.
It's now called factitious disorder imposed on another. Most people know it as Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And if you're not familiar, it's when a caregiver makes a dependent person appear mentally or physically ill, or both, in order to gain attention.
Mm-hmm.
But typically it's not for money or gain in that way. It is just for the attention.
I'm glad they changed the name, because it's such a horrible disease. It's such a horrible thing, but it's so fun to say.
Munchausen?
I was like, Munchausen.
And now it's factitious. At least they changed it to something still fun. And now you can say both. Factitious disorder imposed on another, aka Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Take a drink.
Yeah. You have to take a drink. So typically the abuser in this situation will fabricate symptoms, fabricate lab tests, or manipulate the lab tests. They'll even purposely hurt the victim, typically by poisoning, suffocation, infecting them, even physical injury. Mm-hmm. Now this was interesting. I didn't know this part. It's thought to be the most lethal form of abuse with the known mortality rate. Only the known part. The known mortality rate between 6 and 10%.
Wow.
Yes. So you have a 1 in 10 chance of dying if you are a victim of this. And they differentiate from typical physical abuse because typical physical abuse happens as a response. Yeah. It's lashing out based on a behavior.
Correct.
Whereas this involves, can't talk.
Muchas.
Factitious disorder involves a degree of premeditation
right.
and planning on the
abuser's
part.
A lot of planning. Yeah.
A lot. And typically unprovoked. Yeah. Not saying that any physical abuse is okay, but they aren't reacting to a situation.
It's not reactionary.
No, they are imposing it on someone who has not done anything.
Right.
In one study, the average age of the victim at the time of diagnosis was 4 years old. And 75% of the victims were under 6 years old.
Wow.
And by the time of diagnosis, 6% of victims were usually dead.
Yeah.
Usually from apnea resulting from smothering or starvation. 7% had long-term or permanent disabilities. About half had siblings, 25% of the known siblings were already dead, and 61% of the siblings had similar symptoms to the victim. So, with that all in mind, that degree of just lethality, I don't even know if that is a word. I'm going to make it a word.
Okay, I like it.
So that is what they said that Dee Blanchard suffered from.
Right.
Was that fictitious disorder imposed on another. And Gypsy, unfortunately, was the victim in that situation. So now we're going to hear Gypsy's side of the story.
When did you first learn about Munchausen's?
High school.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
I remember, so when I was a kid, I actually asked for the, I can't even say it now. What is it? The DSM.
Oh,
yeah.
DSM.
I got that for Christmas one year.
Yes.
I was like
I'd be
12.
totally down for that.
I was like 12.
Yes.
So I remember reading it and thinking that was interesting, but I remember The Sixth Sense. Mm-hmm. I think that's when it really brought to attention to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And it was just crazy.
Yeah.
And
it's actually pretty rare.
Yeah.
It's diagnosed rarely, but at the same time, it's kind of like the no mortality rate. You have to know that it's happening mm-hmm. in order for it to be diagnosed, because in my experience, I feel like I've seen it twice, mm-hmm. and that shouldn't be
right.
According to the statistics, that shouldn't happen, but I think it happens more than we know. Yeah.
Well, and I think when you throw into, I think there's also a postpartum. I mean, like, and I'm not yes. saying, but there's postpartum is a real thing. It's a serious thing, and a lot of people can come back. I mean, are coming back, and it's not. So I'm not trying to compare Dee Blanchard to somebody who has postpartum, but I think there is also a kind of gray line there.
Yes.
Where it could.
We need to treat the postpartum, and in doing so, maybe help prevent some of this. Yes. However, when they are dealing with factitious disorder, it goes above and beyond.
Oh yeah,
the postpartum.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as mentioned earlier, Gypsy stopped going to school early on because of her supposed illness.
Gosh,
but
sorry about that.
So sorry. Wow, all the psychology. You're talking about having the DSM book, and you're like, I don't know, Dia, I could read about this. This is you're not handling this one well, Dia.
Sorry.
All right, do some stretches. All right. So,
you need another energy ball over there.
We do. Okay, that's the nice thing actually about our new digs is we have a bigger table for snacks that you can't even see right now.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
It's like a buffet.
Yeah. She made energy balls and I need some more energy.
Apparently you do.
Okay,
for my boring story. So, she was pulled out of school because of all these illnesses. However, if you look at it from the abusive standpoint, you can see how that would be more isolation as opposed to caretaking on Dee Dee's part. And they didn't, like I said, her homeschooling was poor at best. However, most of their days were taken up visiting doctors and visiting hospitals. They didn't even have time to do it because they were so busy trying to keep up the charade.
Right.
It's thought that Dee Dee started making Gypsy use a walker around 5 or 6 years old because she had muscular dystrophy.
Right.
And she was in a wheelchair by 7 or 8. By 10 years old, she was completely wheelchair bound at that point. And her mother Dee Dee started saying that Gypsy was 8 years old and would continue that pattern of making her younger than she actually was, even to the point of forging birth certificates to further that claim. So then when Gypsy's dad would try and visit her, because Gypsy's dad, contrary to Dee Dee's claims, would pay child support and would try to be an active part of Gypsy's life. However, Dee Dee would change plans, not let him speak on the phone to her, basically further isolating them from each other. And Dee Dee would tell everyone that he was an abusive alcoholic, and drug addict, and they were in hiding. I can't talk. We're just gonna have to. This is why I'm boring you, isn't it?
No, you're doing great.
Dee Dee would also shave Gypsy's head, telling her that since she would lose all of her hair eventually, she might as well just go ahead and shave it anyway. And whenever they were out in public, Dee Dee had her in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank and feeding tubes. And she would hold Gypsy's hand so that she could squeeze it or in some way be touching her, making contact with her, so that if Gypsy said something wrong, Dee Dee could correct her in that moment and Gypsy could reevaluate what she said.
Right.
And if you watch interviews of them, you can see it happening in real time. In 2011, Gypsy made what's thought an escape attempt by meeting a man at Comic-Con, and when Dee Dee found her, according to Gypsy, now again, some of the stuff is coming from Gypsy, and we have to understand this may be an unreliable narrator, but Dee Dee smashed Gypsy's computer with a hammer and threatened to smash her fingers if she ever tried that again.
Oh, poor thing.
And then as punishment, she kept Gypsy handcuffed to the bed for 2 weeks. So around this time, Dee Dee also filed paperwork claiming Gypsy was mentally incompetent so that Dee Dee could make the medical decisions for her. But also it's thought that she did this so that if Gypsy did try to go to the police or go to authority figures, Dee Dee would have the paperwork behind her saying, well, she's medically incompetent. She's not able to make these decisions anyway. So in 2012, Gypsy started using another computer at night after her mom was asleep so that her mom wouldn't know. She met Nicholas Godejohn from Big Bend, Wisconsin, on a Christian singles group. And very quickly, they were in a relationship. And that carried on for several years. In 2015, Godejohn traveled to Springfield, where Gypsy let him into her house after Dee Dee had gone to bed. And Gypsy stayed in the bathroom and covered her ears while Godejohn stabbed her mom. They left the house in a cab and with about $4,000 in cash that Dee Dee had stashed away. They stayed in a motel for a couple days and mailed the knife to Godejohn's house back in Wisconsin so that the knife wouldn't be around the scene. I mean, not the best plan, I think, but I mean, I like it from the criminal aspect. Go ahead and do stuff like that, but maybe not the best as far as.
Will not be a mistake you make, is what you're saying.
I wouldn't.
Tia, what's this package that just showed up at the office?
Yeah, what if somebody had opened it? I mean, anyway, So then they took a bus to follow the knife back up to Godejohn's house where he lived with his family. Up in Wisconsin is when they made the Facebook posts, and police were able to track the IP address from those posts to find them. They raided it, found both of them, they surrendered, and then we're back to where police found them. Mm-hmm. So that's Gypsy's side of the story, as far as most of the facts that we know.
Right.
So then we kind of get into who's the victim here. Right. It's a very gray area of, no, Dee Dee shouldn't have been killed, but Gypsy also said she didn't have another way out.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Gypsy was known to be very manipulative. And if you look at her interviews after her mother was killed, mm-hmm. you can still see that kind of manipulation going. You can see how she tried to work the police over, and they didn't. You can see conversations between her and Godejohn where she was goading him into it. It right. was her idea to begin with to kill her mom. She did encourage that. But then on the other hand, you also have, instead of losing weight in jail like most people do, she actually gained 15 pounds. Mm-hmm. from her time in jail because she was so undernourished. She was still on Pediasure.
She looks amazing now. Yeah. When you see her in interviews, mm-hmm. compared to how she looked before.
She was on Pediasure.
Yeah.
She was 20 years old, still on a Pediasure diet.
Yeah.
Even the prosecutor said that he wouldn't seek out the death penalty for either of them just because of the circumstances around the case, which is why Godejohn ended up getting a life sentence as opposed to anything else. They did put Godejohn through a couple psychiatric exams. His lawyers claiming that he had diminished capacity as his IQ was 82.
Correct.
He is on the autism spectrum, and he's believed to have dissociative identity disorder. Mm-hmm. So prosecutors allege that Godejohn, though, even with that diminished capacity, had discussed and planned this murder out for over a year. So he did have time to stop it. But his lawyers claiming, well, Gypsy was the one that came up with it to begin with. So they were kind of going back and forth on that. He only did what she had suggested to him and what she asked for him.
Right.
So that's kind of the back and forth of, you can really put it in several different... there's pros and cons on both. They put Godejohn through a couple psychiatric exams. His lawyers claimed that he had diminished capacity because his IQ was 82.
Right.
He's on the autism spectrum, and he's also believed to have dissociative identity disorder. And prosecutors, on the other hand, are saying, yes, but they talked about this for over a year.
Right.
He had plenty of time to plan it, but also to stop it. But his defense attorneys are saying, yes, but he only did what was asked of him. She's the one that was pushing this plan along.
Right.
And he didn't have the ability to say no to her because of his capacity. So you're kind of in that weird
gray
area of, did she manipulate him? Yes, probably. That's probably true.
Did she have a choice?
Probably not. That's also probably true.
And then how much of it was, because I know I've seen interviews and I've seen movies. Of course, there's that movie that's Joey King does amazing.
She is spot on.
Oh, she is amazing. But how much of it, we're talking diminished capacity, in which we also have the ability to fantasize. So how much of it was just being able to disassociate and realize that, did she understand what killing her mom was?
Did he understand?
Did he? That's what and that's the thing. Yeah, did he understand?
Yeah,
that it was not just because I know a lot of their online play was very much like she was a princess that needed to be rescued, and he was
so much role playing involved. Yes. They had different personalities for different aspects of their lives, and so that plays into it as well. This was just kind of another, did he see this as just another facet of that coming into play? She went from she had no baseline for what a normal relationship looked like. I don't know his side of it, but hers, she had nothing because all she had was her mom.
Yep.
She was completely isolated from the world. So her first relationship was with him. And so much of their conversation was even BDSM stuff. She went from 0 to BDSM.
Yeah. Well, one of the most heartbreaking scenes, and I don't know if it's how true it is to fact, but was one of the heartbreaking scenes was when she was trying to introduce him to her mom at the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, she's going to love you. Just open the door. And her mom is like, don't you look at my kid. It's just heartbreaking because
she wanted normal.
Yeah. Everything I've ever seen, she wanted normal, and she got a really raw deal.
She did. But did that warrant killing her mom?
Right. But how many people would have Dee Dee gone on to kill? Or would she have killed Gypsy Rose?
According to this, there's a 1 in 10 chance that she would kill Gypsy Rose.
Yeah.
There was already the history that she probably did kill her mom.
Yeah.
And by starvation, which the statistics say, yes, that checks out.
Yeah.
And it's thought that she was also poisoning her stepmother as well.
Yeah.
So out of the 3 closest people in her lives, and the husband who got out is probably, he probably would have been one of the victims as well. So did Gypsy stop her own murder?
Yeah.
A slow one.
That's a really hard one. And I've seen enough interviews with her now in jail that I think she's probably going to do some good things with her life after the fact.
She needs incredible emotional support because victims of factitious disorder imposed on another are, if they do survive, if they do get out of it, need an intense amount of therapy just because of the what they have to work to overcome, as far as, of course, there's PTSD, there's all sorts of issues, but even
the trust issues
with doctors.
Yeah.
They don't have a normal health relationship with doctors. So even just their physical health suffers because they don't have that there.
Yeah.
It's the amount that she has suffered is incredible.
Yeah.
But is there even a but there? So that is the psychological delve with my Harvard degree as an armchair clinical psychologist.
You went to Harvard, I went to Yale.
Y'all,
I
got my cowboy boots on. Y'all told me it's Munchausen.
Munchausen by proxy.
By proxy.
That's awesome.
I know it's Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Yeah.
And I always want to call it Munchausen by proxy syndrome.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
which is really, I don't know which is sadder, the fact that we have to use that. We use that in common day occurrence. I mean, that's
how do we even? Some people are out there I've never heard of this. We're I get so confused about it.
It's on page 365 of the DSM-5.
I think that's a great Christmas gift, by the way.
It was. I was 12. It was great.
That's wonderful.
It was pretty funny. Yeah, except I called it, my aunt was dying because she was in the mental health field. I called it the DSM-1V, or IV.
IV?
It's but I used to read that thing, and I'm maybe I have, what is it? Oh my gosh. What's the other one I like saying?
Do you have medical student syndrome?
No, it's,
or I just have everything that...
There's pica, which is so trichtophiliac? I'll have to look it up, but I used to say it all the time. It was really fun to say.
Okay.
I'm sure the people that have it don't find it nearly as fun to say. But
yeah, I'm not sorry, guys.
Yeah. But some of those words are really fun.
They are. I didn't really get into psychology because I didn't really know that it was out there. In high school, I think it was my sophomore year, I took a psychology class because I thought, this sounds like fun. And then it was the gates of heaven opened. And I was this is a thing?
Yeah.
This is amazing.
I remember being 11 and 12 and being I want to be a forensic psychologist.
Can
I be a profiler?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot more than that, but I listen to, there are podcasts with FBI profilers, and they are some of the dullest speakers ever. I mean, you want to talk about dry conversation, and I sit there and I'm like, tell me more. It's not the fun, fancy life that it looks like on Criminal Minds.
No.
But it is still so interesting. It's a bunch of...
It's like splatter technicians. You would think that would be crazy, but they're like, you know, the trajectory at a 90-degree angle.
There's so much geometry involved in that. I'd be like...
Too much math.
No, I don't know. It's splattered. It's a thing.
Yeah. Yes. And as the staircase taught us, it's important.
When owls attack...
We need to cover that one.
We do.
Yeah, that might need to be a two-parter.
Okay, can we have like a little owl graphic?
Yes.
Woo-hoo,
yes,
woo-hoo.
We will definitely have an owl graphic on that one.
Oh my god. You know what it sounds like though? An owl attacking a woman on a staircase sounds like a Mystery Science Theater 3000, something they would watch on there. Can we get like...
We need to figure out a way to do that.
Get the light behind us and black us out as we look.
Watch a video?
Watch the video.
It'll be like in place that we'll watch Abducted in Plain Sight that way.
Oh my goodness. But then you don't get to see our faces.
This is true.
What the fuck?
Though our body language. Oh!
I don't know that I still feel... Oh. There's so much about that. There's just... I truly don't think I've ever watched anything where I kept thinking this can't get worse, and then it does. Every scene says, hold my beer. Every single one of them.
Every single one, yes. It's like, you just thought it was bad.
And then the car scene of him being so nonchalant, and if you know the car scene...
If you know, you know.
And the dad being like,
so I just helped him.
I just helped him.
I can't remember what exactly he says, so I just...
It wasn't help, but...
It was like, I relieved him. It was bad. So, if you haven't seen it, Abducted in Plain Sight, cringe factor is real. Cringe factor is real.
It's... we do have to watch that one. We need to do a...
Yeah.
Okay, we're on it.
Okay,
so Birdcase and... The Birdcase.
The
I'm thinking Birdcage.
Can I be Robin Williams' character?
I'll be Nathan Lane.
Yes!
I could do it. I could do Nathan Lane.
Love myself some Nathan Lane.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
That'd be amazing.
Okay, let's do it. All right, so we've got the Birdcage, the
staircase. We've got season 4, 5, and 6 all played out.
Season 4 is just going to be us reenacting the Birdcage.
And then the staircase.
I could do it.
Can I be the person that falls down the stairs? Something like...
I'll be the owl.
Please be the owl.
Because owls attack with their wings.
That is just a messed up story.
It is. Yeah, but the husband didn't do it.
No.
It was the owl.
It was the owl. So, all right, on that note, we'll be back next week with something new and exciting.
Episode 3, season 3. So we got to make it good. No pressure.
No pressure at all. So, all right, we'll see you.
See ya.
Have a good one.